Hey guys, welcome to Friday's Wine and Design. It is 4:38 p.m. and I'm so sorry because in the world of Be Live on Facebook Live, it appears to be not that stable every week. So Dan, I was meant to drop you down and introduce you, but we've had a few hiccups so people understand. They've got our gorgeous faces together side by side. But welcome guys to Wine and Design here at 4:30 p.m. If you don't know who I am, which should be weird because you're on my page watching this show, I'm Adam Scougall. I'm an interior designer. I create beautifully unique homes for people that are staying put. And if you have a project that you would like to talk to me about, hopefully including some fabulous art, then PM me, private message me, or email me at info@adamscougall.com and I will get back to you in the next business day. So 4:38 p.m. Danielle, my fabulous guest, Danielle Mate Sullivan, contemporary Aboriginal painter and good friend of mine. I think she's a good mate. How are you going, Danielle?
I'm good, Adam. How are you?
Good, darling. But we got our names to show just in case people don't know who we are. There we are. So we've had a bit of a technical hiccup, haven't we, Danielle? I couldn't get the slides up and all sorts of things. But how's your week been?
Frantic. We've had a massive week. Yeah, I had a big trade show yesterday at the convention centre in Sydney, and that was for Supply Nation. So kind of my week was all running around that.
Oh, yes, I saw that. I saw some pictures of that on Facebook. I don't know how you do it because we're going to go into some detail shortly about what you've been up to over in Milan, in Italy. You must still be out of breath from that, but we'll talk about that in a second. We've also got some slides. So I just wanted to say I'm really, even though I know you, Danielle, I'm really excited to talk to you today and to also let everybody else that may or may not know of you, all of the fabulous work, all the varied work you've done as an artist over the last, gosh, I don't even know how many years. In fact, the first question I'm going to ask you really is to tell us all how you got into painting professionally.
So I always loved art in school, and I went on to study creative arts at Wollongong Uni actually, and I majored in textiles. But in terms of going professionally, I suppose like a lot of artists, I never really valued my work, and I probably still don't value it as maybe outsiders do, but because it's just what I do, I paint. But I went professional when my husband, Shane, gave me a big kick up the bum and basically said, you only live once and you're not going to die not knowing, so give it a go full time. And as scary as that was, and, it's still a bit daunting to me, but he was right. He was 100% right. I just had to pull my socks up and give it a shot. And if it didn't work, at least, you've tried it. So that's kind of how it kick-started about 8 years ago.
Wow, 8 years ago. So, yeah. 8 years ago, yeah, because I was talking to you the other day about it when we did our test. And I was thinking, when was the time when you kind of were first, there's a lot of talk about Barack Obama being in town. And then there was an article I think was shared on social media about that situation. So I guess if I can ask you, actually, what I'm going to do, Dan, first, have you got a drink, darling? It is wine and design.
No,
what is it? Show it. Show it to the camera. I've got a Chardonnay. What's yours? Rosé.
Yeah, it is.
It's a nice one.
Little sweet now for the afternoon.
We've got a few people on here, Danielle. I've got Shane's and you, a lovely picture of you, and we're going to go through slides. We're going to talk about Barack Obama and people like Ellen DeGeneres. But I better just look. We've got Anne on here. She's saying, oh, look, well done, Danielle. Kiss, kiss. Anne's on. That's great. We've also got Janelle. Janelle, I believe, is an art lover. I'm not sure if you're an artist too, Janelle, but Janelle's an art lover. She's one of my new mates on Facebook, and she's been at all sorts of galleries and things. So I know that she's been looking out to catch you, Danielle. So thank you, Janelle. I'm going to bring up your lovely husband and you, and I'm just going to change our screens around for the rest of the program. Now, this is your lovely husband. Tell me about. So Shane really gave you an ultimatum and said you've got to go hard or go home. By the sounds of it,
he did. He gave me a big push, quite a encouraging push, and certainly the kind of push I needed. And I haven't looked back. So at that point, I was working full time, and I'd fallen pregnant with our third child, Beau, and I was going on maternity leave. And he said, "Now's the time. Give it a good hard crack, and you'll know, it'll work or it won't work, and you can go back to work, or you can, kick the bucket full time and do your painting forever."
And I bet you're glad that you had the support of your husband to do that, Danielle, because sometimes we don't, if we don't have that support and you're kind of left on your own, it can be very difficult, can't it, to push yourself along and make that change. Yes. Thank goodness you did do that.
Yeah, thank goodness I had Shane. Yeah, absolutely. And even still to today, he's my biggest motivator. He's my biggest fan. He's, my biggest critic at times. So he's a massive driving force behind me and what I do. And I think it's really difficult when you're an artist because you don't see yourself maybe from a commercial perspective, and you don't see, how great you are or how talented you are or how valuable you are. So you really need people on the outside that can look in and give you a true perspective of all of that.
I totally get that. I think it's amazing. So I think it's fantastic. And Shane's I think it's fantastic that you and Shane are getting on these planes and going to the US and going to Italy and all that sort of thing, which we'll get to shortly. Sheena's on here, Danielle. She's saying, "Hi, guys. I love your work. I'm lucky enough to have 2 of your paintings. I've seen one of them. It's one of my favourites as well." And she's also saying she's got the elephant in there. You did a fabulous elephant painting for Sheena a few years ago. Right. I wish we had that picture there. That's a fantastic piece. But anyway, we've got lots of other stuff to show. I think, Danielle, I keep mentioning this Barack Obama thing. You do have, is it true that you have, your work is in the private collections of Barack Obama and Ellen DeGeneres?
It's true.
How did that happen?
So when I first went, when I was on maternity leave, I started doing the Rocks Markets with my work. And through the Rocks Markets, I met an employee of the US Embassy in Canberra. So Will and Lisa, if you're watching this at any point, hi and thank you. So they gave me a connection with the US Embassy in Canberra, and so the embassy asked me to sell my work at the Park Hyatt. So that was when Obama was coming to visit Australia, and they wanted Australian gifts to be available for the presidential team, who were all staying at the Park Hyatt. So, I got my works together, was selling at the Park Hyatt, and actually Shane said to me, "What if the president comes in? You'd better have something to give him." And I said, wow. "Okay." So I did Obama a black cockatoo, and received a letter in the mail stating that he'd received it. And then the coins, so the embassy coins that you're looking at now, we created. Another idea of Shane's was to put together an Australian, they called it a collectible coin for like a medallion for the US Embassy and the consulate. So they trade them also within different friends that have different coins, but there's 4 different coins. One's for the embassy in Canberra, and the other 3 are for the 3 consulates around Australia, so the Sydney, the Melbourne, and the Perth consulate. So you can probably guess from the animals there which one's which.
That's amazing, Dan. When did that happen? What year was this? When was this happening? What year?
Well, Probably a few years ago, initially, we got the coins produced for the embassy, but just more recently, so probably the end of last year, we extended on the range. So there's now 4 available. The embassy asked if we could grow the collection. So that was exciting.
Fabulous. Do you mind if I flick through, Dan? Because, I mean,
right.
we're going to see, if anyone doesn't know you, which is hard to believe, but we're going to see your work through a series of images here. What I love is the diversity, Danielle. I mean, this is some wine bottles here. You've done work, and they're now on the labels of these reds by the looks of it. So how does that happen? How do you end up on the front of a wine bottle?
Well, I suppose, again, that's the partnership with Shane and I. Shane's the ideas man and the businessman, and I'm the creative side. Don't get me wrong, Shane's very creative himself, but so he came up with the concept of the wine bottle label and put that to the ambassador, and we arranged a tasting for the ambassador. He chose the wine label and chose the wine, and so he signs those labels and gives them to dignitaries, and they sell them in the embassy as well.
Oh, fabulous. That's fantastic. And this is sort of classic you, isn't it, this piece? I mean, you are a modern contemporary Aboriginal artist, but you really cover, that artistic streak covers a lot of different mediums. But how old is this piece, Dan? This is really new to me.
Last year, so an 18 piece. So not very old.
Oh, Shane's on here. Janelle's just popped on and said, "Wow, congratulations, that's wonderful." And Shane, I think, jumped on now. So yes, he's very proud. That's lovely. So this is a piece from last year, Dan. I'm just wondering. So I look at your work here, a lovely, vibrant piece. One of the things I love about what you do is just all the vibrant colour and the life, and it's just, it just makes you feel good. I did ask you the other day. So there's that. This has that in it, although this is a very modern version of your traditional art. But the traditional dot style sort of techniques, which I think most people sort of realise when we're looking at what we're looking at, they are obviously a particular trait of the Aboriginal painting culture technique. How do you, this is a very modern painting. How do you sort of weave in the tradition into the modernist sort of way that you paint and present your work? I don't know. Is it just all by feel, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know that I would have an answer to how I do that. I think it's just something, creatively that happens. Yeah, certainly there's my more let's say recognisable works that look like they are Aboriginal works, or what most people would recognise as Aboriginal works, let's say. But it's, like you said before, my style is very diverse. So I do have this very layered and precise work that you're looking at now with the frogs, but I also have a really expressive style of work as well. So it's using, layers when they're wet and working quite fast. So yeah, look, when I'm working in terms of an interior, if I've got a commission for someone, I love to see the space. I love to get a feel for the personality of the client. That all comes, together in the piece. Excuse me. I think, I'm mindful of scale. I'm mindful of light. I'm mindful of just the space, the environment that surrounds, any windows and what's outside those windows. And I'm also considering story as well when I'm creating a commission piece. So it's helpful if I meet a client. Sometimes that's not always possible. So, I've had clients in Western Australia that might email me photos of their space. They might email me or send me swatches of colour or even a pillow slip, so I can use those colour matching in the works. But yeah, I customise everything. So we buy our Belgian linen on the roll. Shane has a carpentry background, so he cuts and stretches everything. So we can really tailor original works to suit a client. And yeah, I suppose that feel or that style of work comes once I've met the client and know what they're kind of after.
Dan, is it hard to do a custom piece for somebody? Like if they're saying, well, and I imagine this happens, we've got a sectional sofa in blue and I like green and John likes orange. And I can imagine it's not as easy as we think it would be just to sort of do a commission. I think, is it ever sort of a bit of a mind teaser?
It can be challenging. There has been a couple of times where a client's asked for something that I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if that's going to work, but I kind of enjoy that challenge of creating a piece that's going to tick their boxes and that they're going to be happy with. And at the end of the day, as long as the client is happy with the final work, that's what's important. And I haven't had an unhappy client yet. So, and I kind of guarantee my work that if you're not happy with it, I don't want to sell it to you. And I certainly don't want you to hang it on your wall. So if a customer's not happy with it, I keep the piece. And there's always someone that will love it and buy it and treasure it. So, there's definitely challenging parameters to work around sometimes, but I think not most, but some artists would not even take a job like that on. There are artists that say, this is what I do, and if you like it, you buy it. If you don't buy it. I'm just very different to that. I suppose whether you call that more of a commercial capability, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I've been speaking to some other artists recently, Dan, Australian artists, and talking about being commissioned to paint a piece, and that it isn't at all as easy as people think, having to be prescribed certain colours and putting the responsibility onto the artist to absolutely make that work. But I totally get what you're saying. And I think it's great that you're so flexible. I mean, this one here on the screen, this to me is another example. I mean, it's got the flavour of your original heritage there with the dots, but you're able to really deconstruct that, aren't you, Dan? And you can get very contemporary and sometimes quite neutral, which is very modern with the greys here and the blacks and the whites.
Yeah, going neutral is really, really tricky for me. Well, not tricky, but challenging. So I do love my colour and I love a good contrast. To push it back to really pastel colours or neutral colours, I have to keep talking to myself when I'm doing it. So and you're right, this piece is really deconstructed. So that's the whole concept. It's called Raw Undoing. So it's about stripping it back to those beautiful first brushstrokes that, I often make some beautiful marks on the linen, but I have to keep working it because it's a commission and I need to get to a certain point. But I'm often thinking, wow, I wish I could just leave it at this or, not have to push it much further. So that's where Raw Undoings was derived from, was, stripping it back to those beautiful natural marks that the brush just makes on its own.
How do you start a new piece, Dan? I mean, this is the other thing I find really fascinating is, I said to another artist at a gallery, I was hearing about what her process is like. Yeah. And I said, oh, you must have a picture, don't you? Or you're sort of looking at the harbour and because she had boats and all that on a harbour, deconstructed a bit like you. But she said, no. A new piece is me taking the old paint from the last canvas, putting it on the new and just starting with wherever I'm going. And I thought, okay, so my left brain had to get out of the way, and I thought it's not easy. It's not the same process, for most artists. But how do you kind of kick off? I mean, you got the blank canvas. Shane's helped you put that together. Beautiful Egyptian linen or whatever it was. And then, what is it? Belgian. What are you going to do? Where are you going to start? Is it kind of
like piece like this, for instance, I'll start with those black lines. So this piece is about an aerial perspective of landscape. So it's the crevices or the waterways that you can see are the black lines that are there.
Right.
And, all the formations and the different textures in the landscape. Yeah. And so I'll start with those black lines first. And it is, you're starting with the original of that work is 90 by 180, and you're starting with a really big, white, clear, fresh page, and it's exciting. So I find that the canvas, I know it sounds crazy, but the canvas tells me what I need to do next. It's communication between me and the canvas, and once you put one mark down, it tells you what the next mark needs to be, and you just got to trust your instincts, I suppose, with that process.
That's a creative process, isn't it? Gosh, wow, this is like, I can't even believe you did this. I'm just flicking through, Dan. So this is you. Tell me now, tell me about this project.
So a partnership between Urban Growth and Sydney Water, and it's a 28-metre water tower that sits in Edmondson Park, kind of at the gateway to Edmondson Park, just near Denham Court, along Campbelltown Road. And it was kind of a two-stage project, obviously the biggest public art piece I've ever done. And we hired, so Shane and I did part A together. We hired an 11-metre scissor lift to do the bottom section, or part of the bottom section, and we did that in a week. And at the end of the week, Urban Growth rang and said, we want you to make it a majority piece. How high can you go? And
wow.
We then hired a 26-metre scissor lift, so Australia's biggest scissor lift, and went as high as we could reach, literally, on the water tower.
God, I hope you've got insurance, Danielle.
Yeah, that was probably the longest process. Adam was the work health and safety of this project.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. Are you telling me that you literally had to get up there and you were literally painting into that top line? Is that correct?
Yeah. So, literally drawing things on a pencil, and then brush or small roller to fill in spaces. I had a great team. I had probably about 6 of us, I think, all up. And it was challenging. Going to those kind of heights is a massive mental challenge, particularly if you're not used to the mobile plant equipment. And but it was all mind over matter, and we did it.
What an achievement! Isn't that amazing? Wow. I mean, I know exactly where it is, Dan. I've driven by there a few times. That's incredible.
You can see it from the M5, actually. Yeah, in both directions you can see it.
You can see it from the M5. Did Shane get up there with you and help you?
Sure did. Some of that? Yeah, he did a massive amount of that, yeah.
Do you have a template or something, Dan? I mean, how do you know? When you're up that high and you've got that much to cover, how do you know what?
Yeah, it's funny because so Shane has a building background, but I was just like, I'll be fine. Like, I know what I want to put up there, and I've got my concept. I'll just get up there and draw it. And Shane said, Danielle, you're going to need, to scale, maybe a metre by metre grid pattern so that we know what's going where, and so that once you get down off the scissor lift, things aren't all skew-if. And so he basically project managed that whole project, and thank goodness, because I don't think my, I'll be right attitude was going to cut it for such a big project.
Dear, oh dear, that's amazing, mate. So this is, I think we're getting a little further forward now, aren't we? Is this very recent stuff we're looking at, Dan?
Yeah, these are the chairs that I painted in Milan, so at Salone del Mobile. So it was the world's biggest design show, for those that don't know it. And we had a stall. I was
invited. That in Italian, Dan?
No, I can't.
Salone del Mobile.
Okay.
I looked it up. Google Translate.
Good.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Invited to paint live at the stand for Winya Furniture, Indigenous Furniture. It was the first time an Indigenous company had been invited to the design show, so it was incredible.
Have we got more of this, Dan, coming up? Look at that. Isn't that incredible? Did you do this live, Dan, or was this brought in from Australia and brought into Milan, or did you do this on site?
I did this on site. It's a Spanish chair. It's a actude chair, and it has a plastic back on it, and I painted it live in Milan. So as you can imagine, the interior designers and furniture manufacturers that were attending the fair just thought that was incredible, seeing some bespoke pieces come together right before their eyes. So yeah.
That's amazing. Where is that piece now?
It's on a shipment back to Sydney.
So we're going to have it back in the country.
It'll be back in the country and for sale.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's amazing. If you don't mind, I'm going to keep going. We got more
Go for
from
it.
Milan. Look at that. This is your other side as well, isn't it? This is you sort of deconstructing again.
Yeah, so that is the raw undoings as well, but it's got a different feel on this chair because I think because of the curvature of the chair, it took on a really, there's lots of movement in it. So that's my favourite piece.
We've got Anne jumping on again, Danielle. I can listen to you for hours. I love your realness and authenticity.
Thanks, Anne.
Oh, what an achievement, Danielle. I mean, looking through this and, all of the varied things that you've done over the last 8 years is really, it's sensational. That's you. Looks like a few of your, Dan, when you're over there with Shane in Milan, all of what we're looking at here, is this all work that you've created in Milan?
Correct.
Right. Wow. Any Italians trying to get you roped into doing some creations for them?
Yeah, so I have lots of potential leads with interior designers that had particular projects in mind or clients in mind that, are after bespoke pieces, whether it be artwork hanging on a wall or furniture pieces like the chairs, from all over the globe. So Dubai, Oman, America. Wow. Oh, look, Shane's got the list. We've got a lot of contacts and hopefully a lot of exciting projects ahead of us.
That's amazing. I can imagine that chair, Dan, in a really modern sort of, contemporary home and a beautiful rug sort of made that would sort of come out of that detail of that piece that you've done. That's absolutely stunning. The other thing you've done, Dan, too, is which is I think is a really smart business endeavour. We're going over time, guys, so I hope you'll stay with us because we came on late. But you're also you did branch out a while ago into wholesale printing, didn't you? And getting works that are affordable out to more people. Which is, I guess a purist artist might not want to have their work reproduced in a wholesale form. But tell me a little bit about that. I mean, to me, that is a really smart move. Whether you call it commercial or selling out or who cares, you're creating a passive income stream by letting some of your work go to wholesale. How does that work out for you?
Brilliant. Yeah. I wouldn't look back on that. I have my own limited edition giclée print range. So hand signed prints that are, investor quality prints. And I also have designed prints for another large company that do wholesale prints. And it's the best partnership. It's the best move I've had. And yeah, you're right. It's a passive income. And for some people, turning your work into prints is a tricky thing to do. And I didn't know whether that was going to be my cup of tea, but, same thing. If you don't give it a go, you'll never know. And, it provides that different price point for my customers. So, you can buy a print that starts at $400 as opposed to an original work of that might be, in the thousands of dollars. So it's worked out a really smart move. And I find a lot of people collect my giclée prints. So they like to buy a few over time, or the print is, their step towards then buying an original. They, ultimately want an original piece but can't afford it. So they start with a print and, go from there. And they're also a great gift for, I find a lot of grandparents buy for their grandchildren because they're a lifelong gift that, a child can have forever. When they leave the home, they take the gift with them. And, so it's a kind of a smart purchase.
Yeah, I think that, Dan, like you were just saying, I mean, some people don't necessarily have the money for the original, but you're offering them a solution which allows them to have the look and feel. I mean, when we're looking at this painting, what is that painting again, Dan, that you've...
Raw Undoings?
Yeah, so I imagine that would look great as a print. I may not be able to kind of go the whole hog with the original, but I can certainly frame it beautifully.
That's right.
Get it framed. Can I also make it larger or smaller if I want?
The print only comes in one size, but yeah, absolutely with your framing. So depending what size mat you put on it and what size frame you put on it, or if you put two pieces together, two vertical, two horizontal, you can really feel a big wall, surprisingly, with print works as well. Yeah.
Are you doing anything else coming up, Dan? A little birdie told me you might be doing something again with the US Embassy.
Oh yes, yes. I've got an exciting project or a partnership with the embassy again with their July 4th celebrations coming up. So you might see a bit of a galactic space artwork that talks about the relationship between Australia and the US and landing on the moon and all of that. So that's an exciting piece that's got really, quite a lot of story to it. Have
you started it?
I've got concepts drawn and approved, and we're yet to roll out the linen, and then I'll start sketching it up.
Fantastic. Are you excited?
Yeah, excited. I am excited because it's going to be a little bit different, this one. Yeah, it's and it's special. So yeah, I'm excited to see the new ambassador at the embassy see the work and see his reaction.
Isn't it great? I mean, there's so much variance. You can't get bored. I mean, what's the situation with these boots, Danielle?
So RM Williams sponsored me when I went to Milan, and they're my boots, my RMs that I painted when I was in Milan, and I wore them all day yesterday, actually wearing them around everywhere. They're so they've got a landscape hand painted on them.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And this again is you. So this is that deconstructed sort of feel, but a lot more colour. So you showed us a neutral.
So that's the piece that was in the background of the chair there before that was unfinished there, but that's it finished, yeah.
Fantastic. So, wow, we've just so many. Is this a commercial project?
Commercial project, yeah, in Kent Street in Sydney. So hand painted on the wall. Stunning concept and great idea. Straight out of the lifts there on the right. So yeah, it was a great use of the space.
So it's a mural. It's not a plastic or PVC print that I don't even know what it is. So it's a hand-painted mural. So, yeah. I mean, you look at the office block and you think, gosh, I'm about to just die of boredom, and then you've got that. Thank goodness they've got you in, Danielle, to give it a bit of life. That looks amazing. How long does something like that take to paint?
Oh, certainly within a week. I went in actually after hours with this. I think the first day I did during work hours, and I was held up quite a bit with people stopping and chatting. So I said, can I have a key for after hours? Yeah, so maybe 4 or 5 days I think that would have been completed over.
Right, I can imagine some late nights on that one.
Yeah.
And there's you right there, that lovely photo of you just right in situation. Were you in situation really painting when they took those photos, or did you have to mock it up a bit?
No, that was a mock-up.
It's a mock-up. Oh, another one there. Is that a little piece? See, what I love about you, Danielle, is you take it to the nth degree. You can go, very, very traditional, or you can go quite modern. And I think it's just a testament to your flexibility. I think it's amazing that to me, Dan, you're out to, get your stuff out there and meet the needs of people, whether the price point is lower or they've got the money to spend on an original work with you. There's so many varied ways that people can get some of your art in their home. And I think it's fantastic. And, I think it's amazing. Congratulations on the Milan, you and Shane going to Milan, and I think all of the things that you've talked about that you've been doing over 8 years on the show today has just been outstanding. I mean, you said to me that you weren't really sure, but I have to ask you. So many things that you've done, and I would imagine dream projects already, but is there anything in your mind that you can see happening in the future that you can mention that you'd still like to do as a dream project?
Look, the leads that we got from Milan, I would, love to see a few of them come to fruition. They would be amazing projects to be involved with. I've definitely got my eyes on another water tower. There's a particular tower I'd love to do. So Sydney Water, if you're listening, or Urban Grove. That was a really good challenge, and it's something that I can sit back or drive past and enjoy, which is awesome. But you know, every day is so different for me. I can, you know, start working the day and within a couple of hours I've had a call to, you know, paint a helmet for a V8 supercar driver, or you just don't know what's around the corner. So I'm happy to see what comes. You know, if that's a Qantas airplane to paint, I'm up for it.
Oh, wow. You know what? Don't jinx yourself, because look at the last 8 years and you're still young. Think about what's going to happen in the next 8 years.
I happened to meet, I met Qantas, or someone from Qantas, an employee from Qantas yesterday at the Supply Nation event. So we'll keep working at it.
That's amazing, Dan. I mean, it's just been such a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, I always love talking to you and having a good old catch up. But it's just lovely to look at the photos and hear the stories behind them. You and I, you know, we've got to do a home together where you do all the art, and then I've got to come up with some amazing interiors that are influenced by
what you're build the home.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think we've got to have a catch up, talk through that. But look, darling, you've been an absolute pleasure to speak to. You're so talented, and I think you're amazing. And if anyone wants to, everyone should jump onto your website. You've just retouched it recently. It's refreshed. It looks amazing. But your website is, I believe, is it daniellematesullivan.com?
.au.
It's .au, but I've spelt it. Is it daniellematesullivan.com.au?
Correct.
Well, I would say to anyone here, please jump on and have a look at Danielle's work. Whether you need some custom stuff done, look at the versatility that we've seen today. And if you want something that's lively and colourful and just makes you feel great to be alive, I think this is the woman to go to. Modern Australian art, it's fantastic. And I think we'll finish up there, Dan, because we started late and we're finishing late, but who cares? It is after 5 and I'm going to finish this glass off. Any plans for the weekend?
A bit of soccer, a bit of rugby, and lots of quoting to do, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Fantastic to be busy. That's amazing. Lots of quoting. So can you just let me know, darling, what happens with anything from Italy? I mean, I'm dying to find out what happens there now.
Yeah, stay tuned. Follow me on Facebook or on Instagram and you'll keep up to speed with all of it.
People know. Okay, mate. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to let you go. Say hi to Shane and the kids, and I'm going to wish you a lovely Friday night, and don't work too hard on the weekend, Dan.
Thanks, Adam. It's been great fun.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll say goodbye. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.